Abdus Salam, Abdus Sabur, Abdul Rahman, Abdul Rahim, which are the most beloved names to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abdul Rahman, Abdul Rahim, Abdullah, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ahmed sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. These are all names that are beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reflect the religion of Al-Islam. If you name your child Keith, how does anyone know that he's a Muslim? Not to say anything about somebody's name if his name is Keith, but we want to name our children with names that reflect the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When your child's name is Abdullah and he's in a public school and the teacher calls his name out on a roll call, Abdullah, it reflects the religion of Islam. Automatically everybody knows that he got to be a Muslim, or he has some type of relationship to Islam in his family. Reflects the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't want to, just integrate into this society to the point where we're not even acknowledged. But we always want to make sure we stand out. We always want to make sure that the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always seen. Zahir. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that He sent His messenger to وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَ رَسُولَهُ بِالْهُدَى وَدِينِ الْحَقِّ لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. And He is the one that has sent His messenger with the guidance and the religion of truth so that it prevails over all other religions. If we try to be like the kuffar and naming our children with their names or names that are specific to them, then at what time does Islam become prevalent? When does Islam become zahir, superior? So we want to name our children with names that reflect the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. We said stick to the topic. During the salat, after getting up from sujood, what is the ruling on raising your hands for the takbir? We were talking about women's issues. We'll leave that to last unless we have any more questions related to. And the second question, we know that images are haram. Do we talk anything about images? What are the signs of puberty for boys and girls? So when boys show these signs, does this make them eligible in becoming one's mahram? Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions in his explanation of Zad al-Mustaqni' Sharh al-Mumti' in volume number 2, the signs of puberty for the boy are 3. Number 1, it is the growing of pubic hair. The growing of pubic hair. Number 2, he has a wet dream. He has the seminal fluid or seminal discharge. And number 3, he reaches the age of 15. These are all signs that we know that when we see these things from our boys, then we know that they have reached the age of puberty. And for the girl, it's those 3 and 1 more, which is minced blood. It is these 3 for the girl also, with 1 extra one, and that is when the girl starts to mince, then we know that she has reached the age of puberty. Then that would leave us to ask, then how do we know the difference between minced blood and other types of blood? Because now that becomes a problem for many of the sisters, as many of them cannot distinguish the blood of istihada from the blood of hayd and the blood of nifas. There are 3 different types of blood that the woman experiences in Islam, and that is the blood of al-hayd, minced blood, which Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala mentions has 3 characteristics. The minced blood, number 1, it is a black color. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, damul hayd, damul aswad. And the blood of mince is black. It is a black color, like a dark burgundy, a dark red color, almost resembling black. That's the first characteristic. The second characteristic is that it is thick, congealed blood. It is thick, not like when you cut your hand and the blood just drips and it runs. Minced blood is not like that. It is thick blood. And number 3, it has a foul odor to it. It has a foul odor to it. And these are the three characteristics of minced blood. And wherever the woman sees these characteristics in the blood that comes from her, or the discharge that comes from her, then she should leave off the salat and leave off fasting. The second type of blood, which is the blood called nifas, which is translated as the postpartum bleeding, or the bleeding that the woman experiences after she gives birth to a child. And this blood is similar to the blood of minced blood. Although it may not have a smell to it, or it may not be as dark in color, but it resembles the minced blood, and it takes the same hukum as minced blood, meaning that it is najis. If it gets on your clothes, you have to wash that clothing, and as long as you see that blood, you should leave off the salat and should leave off fasting. The third type of blood, which is the blood of istihada, which is the blood that comes from a broken vessel, a broken vein in the vaginal area of the woman. And this blood is not najis. The woman should not leave off the salat. She should not leave off of fasting. And it's permissible, as Shaykh Uthaymeen and many of the ulama of the opinion, that it is permissible for the husband to have sexual relations with her, although it may not be the best thing to do due to the fact that the blood is still coming from the woman. But hukman, the hukum of it, the Islamic legislative ruling as it relates to sexual relations with your wife while she's experiencing this type of blood, is that it is permissible. And we have to be able to distinguish what is permissible as it relates, as opposed to what is the best thing to do. Just because something is permissible doesn't mean that it's encouraged. And this type of blood is not najis. It's not najis. It's light. It's the total opposite of the blood of mince, and that is that it is light in color. It doesn't have a smell to it, and it's runny. It's not thick. And when the woman sees this blood, she should totally disregard it, and she should make wudu for every salah. She should make wudu for every salah. And these are the different types of blood. And this is when you know the child has reached the age of puberty. For the boy, it's those three, and for the girl, it's those three plus one more, which is the minced blood. And when the child reaches or see these signs, does he becomes the individual's mahram. Mahram, to travel with you, is not so much related to the person being in the age of puberty, but it has to do with his intellect, and it has to do with his ability to preserve your honor as a Muslimah, and to protect and guard you in the event that there's some harm that is going to come to you. And a child at 12, 13, 14 years old, you can travel with him, but at the same token, as far as marrying you and conducting your sit-downs, no, you should have another relative to assist you, because we're talking about a level of maturity now. Now we're talking about a level of maturity. But if the child is 13, 14, 15 years old, and the woman wants to travel and she takes her son with her, and he's at this age, فَلَا حَرَجْ, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same token, we have to take into consideration, along with the fact that he's above the age of puberty, what is his maturity level? Some children at the age of 13, 14, although he may be in puberty, but he still acts like a child. He may not be mature enough. So now if you're traveling with him, and then someone comes to you and trying to kick it to you and talk to you, he don't know what's going on. He don't know what's going on. As opposed to you traveling with somebody 18, 19, 20 years old who's conscious of what's going on and what's happening, and you will be a little more reluctant to entertain something like that in the presence of your son if he's that age or that mature. As opposed to you being with a 13, 12, 13-year-old boy, even though he's in the age of puberty, he's still a child. He's still a child, he's still immature, he's still not aware of things that are going on around him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. You have to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you have the ability to. Yeah. What was the question about salah? Is there any sin upon a woman if she took her husband's last name upon marriage, and she was ignorant of the Muslim woman keeping her father's name at the time? Is it necessary for her to change her name back? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I don't know, Allah knows best, but this is another good question, because many of us were probably married before Islam, and in the event that you change your name now that you are a Muslim, does that mean that you have to now change your name back? This is an excellent question. These are the type of questions that we want from the sisters and from the brothers. These are the type of questions that when Abdullah bin Abbas was asked, how did you reach this level of knowledge? He said, بِلِسَانٍ سَؤُولٍ وَقَلْبٍ عَقُولٍ. He said, by asking a lot of questions and contemplating and reflecting on the answers that was given to me. This is what we're talking about. This is how we bring new information into our communities. Because Wallahu Ta'ala a'lam, whether these questions, I can't remember from the past 6 or 7 years that I have been involved, I have involvement in the da'wah, I can't remember seeing questions like this. I don't remember questions ever being presented to the mashayikh similar to this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I could be wrong, but as far as my limited knowledge, I can't remember a question being asked like